Are you guys ready to be hit by a winter storm this season at home? Because the answer will surprise you. This is our first winter storm of the season, and I want to make sure that you guys are prepared and ready for what's coming. So let's head inside and I'll show you a few tips. Whew. There's nothing worse than when a winter storm comes, destroys all your plans, and gets rid of everything that you're used to. A lot of us aren't prepared for winter storms, but my fiance and I have lived in a van for 5 years off the grid, and that gave us a lot of knowledge about preparedness. And I want to make sure that you guys have some of that knowledge too, so that you're prepared and comfortable when the power goes out, the winter storm comes, and all the unfortunate things start happening. Okay, so here are the solutions to keep you prepared for when the winter storms come and the power goes out. The first thing you really want to do is make sure all of your devices are fully charged. That way, when the power does go out, you're kind of set and ready to go. You also want to make sure that you have a really good flashlight on hand. I actually just got this one for Christmas and I'm really happy with it. It's super bright. These are super important because when the power goes out, there's not a lot of light, and that's when injuries happen, and you really want to stop that. A good way to have a good flashlight is a headlamp. Always keep this headlamp on hand here, and a headlamp is really important because it's hands-free. You can have two hands and you can continue what you're doing. So if you have to go start that generator, make sure you have a headlamp. One thing I want to show you guys a little bit later in the video is this. And I'm just going to block the name for now. So stick around and I'll show you why this is the most important thing in our emergency kit. Next up, you want something that will be able to charge your phone when the power is out for extended period of times and you've used up all of your power. Something like a portable solar generator is a great solution. I'm not sponsored or anything like that. We've had this for years, but I trust it a lot. Now these things are pretty expensive, so a really good way to go is a small power bank, and one that's really good is this flashlight again. This flashlight actually has a means of charging your phone from it, so it's actually a really good solution. In addition to flashlights, make sure you have candles. It's a warmer light. It actually produces some warmth. Tea lights are the best because they're much smaller. You can get them for super cheap and they're handy. Never ever forget the lighter. You always need a lighter, and you'll be surprised how often you'll forget a lighter with your candles. If you're on town water, you don't have to worry about this one, but when the power goes out and you're on, say, a well like us, you can't get water. You can't flush the toilet. You can't fill up anything for drinking water. So what we used to do in my home that I grew up in, we didn't have a generator or anything like that. So just before we knew a storm was coming, we'd fill up the bathtub full of water. That way we could scoop a small bucket in it to be able to flush our toilets. And even if you are on town water or something like that, it may be a good idea if you have like a spare bathtub, like as well as a shower, to fill up that bathtub too. You never know when you need extra water. And what goes with water, that's food. We actually keep an extra bin of food out in our shop outside, but obviously we're in our house right now. Like, we have lots of food, canned storage, stuff like that. We always have backup food, and it's super important because you never know how long you're gonna get stuck. You never ever know what's gonna happen, and it's best to be prepared with lots of food. If you really want to go above and beyond, make sure you have a camp stove and fuel for it. Luckily here in the house, we designed it so that we had a propane top. So even if the power goes out, we can cook our food with propane, but a lot of people have electric stove tops, and when the power goes out, you can't use it. So if you have a camp stove that you use for camping in the summer or something like that, make sure you know where it is and make sure you have extra fuel to be able to use it. A really important thing to have is a first aid kit. And it's actually really important that you pack it yourself and you know what's in it, because if something happens, the lights are out, someone falls, someone hurts themselves, at least you know what to grab and where it is. It's very important to have a first aid kit. Now there's gonna be a lot of downtime during the storm and when the power is out, and it's best to kind of keep yourself distracted or keep the hopes up. And the best way to do that is to have games available, ones that don't require power. are the best, just because if you're with a group, if you're with your family, it kind of keeps everyone occupied and keeps stuff rolling. And I would recommend having a generator. That's a little bit higher level stuff though. It's a lot more expensive. If you can afford it, make sure you do get yourself a generator. And you'd be surprised at how many people put them inside. Never put your generator inside. I'm sure I don't need to tell you, but keep your generator outside. Obviously, not everyone can have a generator. If you live in an apartment building, you can't have a generator unless you have maybe a balcony to put it on. But that just being said, I do want to mention a generator is a great idea. Now, during the storm, a really good thing to do would be get in contact with your loved ones or your neighbors. It's always great to have a community and make sure you know what's going on with others. Maybe you're going to be out of power for a really long time that you're told by hydro, and you might be able to go make it to your aunt's house who hasn't gone out of power yet. It's always important to keep communication and know what's going on with others, especially if you have a grandmother, grandpa, something like that. Make sure that you contact them and you know what's going on. And along with that is your car. I'm gonna do a separate video on the things that you should have in your car in the wintertime, but make sure your car is full on fuel before a storm. If you know a storm's coming, fill up on the way home from work. Make sure you have lots of fuel. You never know if you need to get somewhere. And if you get stuck, then at least you have lots of fuel to stay warm and keep the engine running. So make sure you keep that in mind as well. And finally, I'm going to show you the thing that I teased, which is this, the most important thing in our emergency kit, which is our emergency binder. Now, this is a really great idea I got from a book. And what is in this emergency binder is basically all of our important information. Now, I'm obviously not going to show you that, but what we have in here is all of our family and friends' phone numbers in case our phones go out. We have all of our credit cards, all of our identification, everything photocopied and scanned and printed in these slips, making sure that if anything ever happens, let's say, God forbid, you have a fire or something like that, and this is the one thing you go to grab because it's really hard to get identification after the fact of a disaster. If you have this, it's going to make your life so much easier and you can prove who you are. Along with that proof with the photocopies of your identification, also have photos of you and your family showing that you are actually, in fact, family. We also have stuff like our birth certificates, car insurance, numbers for car insurance. We have our passwords. We have everything we would need if a disaster happened and we lost access to our really most important electronics and documents. We keep this in a good spot so that if anything happened, it's easy to grab and easy to locate. Let me know if you think there's anything that I missed here in this emergency kit. Make sure you comment below and let me know what that was. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that you could cram into an emergency kit, but hopefully you'll be at home at the time. That way you have access to everything in your house that you would possibly need. Make sure you're safe out there and you're prepared, and I'll see you next time on the Snowstead.